You know what a Tyrannosaurus Rex is?
No,
they figured out.
They have a new one where they're going to bring it back.
Yeah. Tyrannosaurus Rex is a giant kangaroo. That's what it is. That's my guess.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not having a go at Joe Rogan for having these people on. Don't take it out of context. I'm more looking at the fact that who are Joe Rogan's friends that he surrounds himself with, and if you look at it, most of the time it looks like it's people like Eddie Bravo, Graham Hancock, Alex Jones. A lot of people that just don't have their head in reality. I've been watching a lot of documentaries and videos and all that kind of stuff about ancient archaeology and lost civilization. I think most of it, looking at like Brevall and Robert Brevall and Graham Hancock and a few other people, looking at them as people, interesting storytellers, I'll say that much, but looking into kind of like the science and everything of it, not much of it holds water. I find that pseudoscience and pseudo-archaeology, I think they're just trying to sell a book. You can't say that Graham Hancock and Robert Brevall would be where they are if they didn't have the book selling that they did have from the one before Magicians, Fingerprints of the Gods. Stuff like that he wrote, a long time ago has made him a lot of money, and now since then he's been able to talk about it and blah, blah, blah. The only problem with people like Graham Hancock is they talk a lot about, pseudoscience. Like, they don't really come up with facts, and they say that they're just a reporter, so they're just reporting on the facts. So really, they're nothing more than just a glorified conspiracy theorist. Without, proper evidence to back up what they say, it's kind of a bit ridiculous. It's not good, I guess, that on shows like the Joe Rogan Podcast, for example, he'll have on Hancock, and Hancock will come on and spout his pseudoscience and pseudo-archaeology. And even the one when they had the critic that came on with him, it was basically just those three. There was Carlson, I believe, Hancock, and Joe, just all ganging up on, was it Michael Schumer, the critic? They pretty much just broke it down to, this guy said nasty things about me, can you change the article? Rather than actually looking at the actual facts of the dating of the Sphinx, weather erosion, which all that stuff. First they had the one guy, and then he got another guy who actually wrote the article on skeptic.com or whatever the website is, to basically state what his opinion and everything, and why he wrote it like that. And I think it's very telling about how Graham responded. He basically was just sad, or I guess a bit mopey, that there was so many digs at him. But the thing is, if you're claiming to be making claims of that nature, that there was an ancient civilization that was around before us, there needs to be evidence. You report things, you don't actually... Yeah, because the way it really looks is just that you've Googled some things, you've come up with a theory that you think's sellable, and then you've marketed it. Which is... It kind of puts everything in question. I watched and did a bit of research on Robert Brevall, which he's the one that came up with the original theory that every pyramid lines up with a star and all that kind of stuff, which is, it's not commonly accepted that they even line up with stars. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I guess you can correlate, but the thing is, you can make a pattern out of the sky that says, out of the stars, that says go fuck yourself. So I mean, if you have a will and a way, you can correlate anything with anything. When there's a big platform like the Joe Rogan experience, he gets on people that are trying to sell a book. It appears to me that they're trying to sell a book. And especially, even people like Tom DeLonge. This will go back to Tom DeLonge when he came on. He was talking about, aliens, conspiracies, and the government, and blah, blah, blah. But then he was like, oh, you have to buy my book, Secret Science, or whatever the fuck it's called.
Once again, I can't tell you.
You're not Edward Snowden. You're a rock star.
But I'm saying some pretty provocative shit. You got to realize.
Do you think it's going to be weird for people to take you seriously because you're a rock star like me?
Oh, I can't tell you too much. You'll have to get the book. It's a cop-out, all right? Real information, if it comes down to that it's actually world-changing and it's meant to be scientific, should be free information. There's a lot of people like this, though.
Do you really think there's people out there campaigning for late-term abortions? You think that shit's real? You think that shit's real?
Voted Monday to keep it legal.
Who would do that? Who would do that? Who would campaign for? That's
They
the most.
fucking did it,
That is the
Bravo,
craziest
and
shit
you
ever.
can't fucking admit they're fucking killing already more kids, so you're telling me it isn't real when they had a fucking vote in the goddamn fucking Senate.
That's a conspiracy theory.
That's
Stephen Greer. I knew that before I even popped up. So Stephen Greer is another person that I think is completely full of crap. He tells a lot of anecdotes and a lot of stories that have been told to him. So, I mean, you can't really fault him, but I think a lot of these people that look at these things and research these things extensively get stuck in the mentality that they're correct, which is, I mean, good for them selling books.
They faked the moon mission 6 times, and everybody believes that shit.
He has this thing called the Disclosure Project, and he also has a thing called Sirius. Now, they're documentaries, and this goes on to what I was saying before about if information like this is prevalent to humanity, why would you charge $18 for a streaming license, which is what Stephen Greer did with this shit. There's a lot of people out there that are pushing stuff with no evidence, and they are trying to sell a book. And the thing is, I believe that if you read a book from start to finish, you can be convinced of anything.
Well, you don't believe that?
Non-nuclear bomb.
I don't believe
But why
shit.
do
they're
you
saying. I'm
automatically
crazy.
assume?
I'm crazy. This is how crazy I am.
Tell me.
I watched this and I think this is. I'm trying to figure out what's the angle. Why are they showing us this?
If the writer's good enough, they can convince you that elves are real and that that ring had to go to Mordor.
You just apply this to everything.
Basically, anything
Even
coming from the
dinosaurs.
government. Anything coming from the government.
The dinosaurs don't come from the government.
Just there's so much fraud when you look into
Astronomy
it. I'm like, I don't
doesn't
trust
come from the
shit.
government. It comes from scientists.
Look into it. Look into it, man.
But Eddie, I have looked into it. Look.
You'll start believing hobbits are real at the end of the Lord of the Rings novels. That's all I'm saying. Like, it's the way things are worded. It's a lot of misconceptions and a lot of straw man arguments that they have.
So you literally could fly around and grab a Coke out of someone's hand and put it in someone else's hand. It's really
Where are you getting this from?
the little aliens with the big black eyes. I believe that technology exists.
One of Graham Hancock's main things is that he believes that the world's against him and that it's a big conspiracy, that the mainstream view won't accept it. I saw his interview that he did with what's his name, Zawi Hawass, which is he's the leading, or was the leading Egyptologist at the time, and what's his name, Hancock came out, showed one picture of Robert Duvall, which was the guy that came out with all that stuff about stars lining up and all this stuff, and he just walked out. He didn't want any bar of it. He's like, I'm not debating anything to do with Robert Duvall. He's a thief, he's a liar.
At least feel there are question marks over the Sphinx. I think it's relevant to consider the recent discovery of a gigantic megalithic site in Turkey dated to 11,600 years ago, and to wonder whether we should raise questions over the Sphinx again.
I don't think that what has been said is right. It has nothing to do with anything. In my opinion, we know the date of the Sphinx. What has been found in Turkey, I don't think, and I don't know if this is true or not. Did you ever hear about this? Make it comment.
Yes, the Turkey, it's Eastern Turkey actually, to the east of Armenia.
The mainstream consensus is that a lot of these people are, well, liars and frauds. So, yeah, if you look at, I guess, the facts objectively, there's nothing that really leads you to believe there was an ancient civilization that got wiped out. And the only really evidence that Robert Duvall put forward was the pyramids are there. So, I mean, that's not a good argument. I saw a video on YouTube of a guy lifting a pillar, like it was a massive, like, what are they called? The obelisk? Like an obelisk in his backyard, using only rope and wood. So, if one man can lift an obelisk in his backyard, then I believe that a few hundred people could build the pyramids. What he does is he'll use the rope to pull up one side of it, put a piece of wood under it, lower that down, so this side goes up, puts a piece of wood under it, lowers this side down, puts a piece of wood under it. And then he stands on it and basically does the same thing. So he'll walk over this side, it'll go to that side, he'll hop off, put a wood under it, walk back up, it'll go back like that, put another piece of wood under it, and it slowly starts getting higher and higher. And then when it gets to a certain point, you can just pop it into place. So if one person on YouTube can build an obelisk in his backyard and erect it, then who's to say a few hundred slaves, or not even slaves, a few hundred workers couldn't do it? Another thing that Graham Hancock does is he'll talk about stuff like ayahuasca, which I believe it's not a super bad thing to discuss, but I know a fair bit about ayahuasca and DMT. I've read books like The Spirit Molecule, stuff like that, that talk about, the effects of DMT, dimethyltryptamine. And the problem here is that Hancock basically says that the way that these ancient, or these shamans, learnt how to make this ancient brew was that Mother Ayahuasca, or the plant, told them. Now, what he doesn't tell you, this is how he presents it. He says that, these shamans found out how to make ayahuasca. The trees told them how to do it, or Mother Ayahuasca told them how to do it. They found this one plant with this MEO inhibitor in it, and they mixed it with this other plant, and they created ayahuasca. Now, what he doesn't mention is that DMT, dimethyltryptamine, is chemically active in most things. You can extract DMT from grass, like lawn clippings. So for him to say that they couldn't find this one plant and mix it with any other plant is ridiculous. I think it was actually bark, but him saying that is stupid, because I could get the stuff from my local Bunnings and I could whip up some DMT, some ayahuasca. So it's a bit disingenuous for him to be like, the spirits told, or whatever. They were tripping balls, mate. They were literally off their guts on drugs, so they would say anything, I believe. Now, it's a problem because when people like this, that have, I guess, some kind of credibility, start talking to spirits from other dimensions, it gets a bit ridiculous. Yeah, Alex Jones, Eddie Bravo, all those guys that end up on the Joe Rogan podcast, I know Joe's friends with them, and I know he wants to have discussions with his friends. But the thing is that there's a lot of people that watch his stuff, and if I didn't be bothered to do the research behind Graham Hancock, I would probably be inclined to believe him. It is a cool story, it's exciting. It would be amazing, like it'd be crazy if an ancient civilization built the pyramids, but there's just no evidence of it. Yeah, there's a lot of people in this world that want to make money off you, and selling a book is a great way to do it. If you have something that's controversial and can't be proven, that is a winner. And I think that's what Graham Hancock has done with fingerprints and magicians. I think he's just basically looked at the science and then found counter arguments to what he thinks is the truth, and there's a lot of straw man arguments and a lot of well, it's there, so look at it, like humans couldn't have achieved that. And I think that's really shit, because he's discrediting human achievement. Like, humans built the pyramids. We did a fucking amazing job so long ago, and like back then, like if you were in that age and you saw the pyramid, you'd be godstruck. You would be like, there's no way humans could have built this. And that's what the pharaohs wanted you to believe. They wanted you to believe they were larger than life. It was a part of Egyptian culture. Look at the obelisks. Look at the giant statues. Look outside of Ramesses' tomb, where they've got the four big things at the front. It's massive. And to discredit humans, it's crazy. I've watched a lot of documentaries about early human hominids and like Neanderthals and other early hominids, and it's crazy. Like Neanderthals, there's actually evidence that Neanderthals built like a boat out of a tree stump, like a log, like a tree log, and that's crazy. The Neanderthals, like they were building stuff from them. So the Neanderthals, they carved out. They believe they carved out a log and used that as a boat. Humans, Homo sapiens, as we are, yeah, we did really well, and it's crazy that someone like him like Hancock would get on this. Now, Hancock was a massive stoner. I don't know if you guys know this, but he was smoking from when he got up till when he went to sleep. He was smoking a lot of weed, and yeah, you can tell from his books. It's very creative. That's all I'm really want to say about it, because they're good stories. If you look at it, it does not make sense. That shit does not make any goddamn sense. He likes to tell a story. He's smoking the weed, and he's getting creative. So, I mean, I can't really blame him. It's just I find it a problem when he goes on things like the Joe Rogan Experience, and there's a lot of people that will just watch it and then go, okay, well, maybe he's right. Maybe I'll buy his book. And you're just paying for this guy to continue on doing what he's doing. Now, I'd have a completely different opinion if I saw any kind of Egyptologist or any kind of scientist or archaeologist or anyone that would agree with him, but just thought I'd talk a little bit of shit about Graham Hancock. Sorry, mate, but I mean, you're a good author. You're just doing what the rest of us are doing, making up stories and hoping your book sells. Anyway, thanks. Enjoy the rest of your day. Peace out.
He's like, what the fuck is he doing? You know, why is he telling everyone? So he runs to the news station with George Knapp, who's another he's a host on Coast to Coast, and he tells him what he's doing, and he just goes live on Las Vegas News, and it caught like wildfire across the world. And so then these guys grab him.
When aliens fly into your butt.
And so she started having an affair.
I'm too stupid for this. They have experienced this physically, or is this just theoretical, or they know that it exists? Like, that guy was wacky as fuck.